Welcome to today's Explainer. Now, I love music. I've listened to classical hits for years, but I had never actually sat down to watch the opera Turandot. Honestly, I didn't even actively want to go. I just got completely dragged along by someone who really wanted to see it. So, I sat down, the curtain went up, the music swelled, and by the end of the night, I was left completely speechless. Not because of the sweeping romance, but because I was sitting there thinking, what on earth is wrong with these people? So we are diving straight into this deeply unfiltered, passionate experience of Turandot, and then looking at an AI's absolutely brilliant validation of it. If I had to boil down my entire review of this majestic, world-renowned opera into a single sentence, it wouldn't be about eternal love or sacrifice. It is simply this: birds of a feather flock together. It's just two incredibly chaotic, extreme people finding each other.
It honestly makes me ask this deeply relatable question. Why are opera characters always this extreme and ridiculous? Seriously, think about Ida. You've got a princess blinded by jealousy who snitches on the general she loves and his lover, gets them sentenced to death, and then suddenly repents and decides to commit suicide on top of their grave. It's madness. But Turandot too? Turandot takes this to an entirely different psychopathic level.
Just look at the sheer scale of the crazy here. Princess Turandot acts like she is literally possessed by the spirit of her ancestor. To avenge the shame and death her ancestor suffered years ago, she decides to take it out on entirely unrelated men. She sets up 3 deadly riddles. If you get them right, you marry her. If you fail, you die. By the time the story even starts, she has already murdered 26 men. 26!
Then, Prince Calaf steps up and actually solves all 3 riddles. By the way, I personally tried to guess them while watching. I totally failed the first 2 because I wasn't used to them, but I absolutely nailed the 3rd one. Anyway, Calaf wins. And what does Turandot do? She refuses to marry him. She completely breaks her promise, throws a massive tantrum, and proceeds to torment the entire city overnight. Why? Because Calaf made a reverse bet saying if she can guess his name by dawn, he dies instead of marrying her. So she goes on a tyrannical rampage to find out his name.
Which brings me to the most famous part of the opera, Nessun Dorma. It's widely known as one of the top 3 greatest arias ever, and tenors dream of singing it perfectly in its incredibly high original key. It's often romantically translated as "the princess cannot sleep," but looking at the actual context of the story, it is a strict, terrifying, supreme command from the princess, meaning, let no one sleep. She is essentially ordering the citizens to pull an all-nighter and find out this guy's name or else.
Receiving this terrifying, abusive order, what does Calaf do? He's so confident he's going to win that he just belts out Nessun Dorma in the dead of night. Sure, it sounds amazing, but singing it right then is wild. Sing it at dawn, maybe, but in the dead of night? He's completely unconcerned about the absolute chaos he is causing. And spoiler alert, his little reverse riddle and singing session directly lead to a heartbreaking suicide.
Tracking the prince's timeline, I quickly realized the guy facing the psychopathic princess is just as much of a lunatic. His ruined father, the fallen king, begs him not to do it. Lou, the loyal servant who harbors a deep crush on Calaf, begs him to stop. But this pretty boy fanatic sees the pretty princess and basically says, I don't care if you die, I don't care if I die, I'm taking the challenge. He solves the riddles, but instead of leaving it there, he makes that reckless reverse riddle that throws the whole country into an uproar and ultimately causes Lou to kill herself to protect his secret. You'd think a guy with the qualities of a king would anticipate how a murderous princess would react to a reverse bet, but no, he's just crazy too. The terrified townspeople and frantic servants actually come out and beg him. They say, please, take money, take honor, take land you can rule, just run away. Are you trying to get us all killed? And his actual mindset practically boils down to, I don't care if you all die, I'm marrying the pretty princess. It is astonishing.
And then comes the absolute peak of the absurdity. After Lou kills herself right in front of them to keep Calaf's secret, Calaf and Turandot are left alone. Do they reel in horror? No. They start engaging in these nonsensical whisperings of love. Turandot starts babbling about how she had feelings for him from the start, how she despised him but simultaneously loved him. Calaf babbles right back at her. And then, out of nowhere, he gives her a sudden, passionate kiss and just tells her his name before dawn. He puts his life entirely in her hands.
Which leads to the most glaring, unforgivable flaw for me. What about Lou? During all this romantic whispering, there is not a single word of mourning, apology, or even a mention of Lou. Nothing from Calaf, nothing from Turandot, nothing even from the townspeople. It just cemented my thought that both of these main characters are absolute psychopaths.
The ending is a total rapid fire of chaos. Morning breaks, the king sits on his throne for the final judgment, and Turandot steps up. Her brain has apparently been completely rewired by a single kiss, and she announces to the court that she knows the stranger's name. She declares his name is Love.
I mean, my only reaction sitting in the audience was, really? Seriously? For real? Are you kidding me? But nope, everyone cheers, they get married, and the opera just ends.
So, what was the final verdict? The stage was magnificent. The orchestra, wonderfully led by the female conductor, was perfect. Puccini's music, which was his swan song, by the way, and just to be clear, that's Puccini, the Italian composer, not Putin, the Russian leader. The music was absolutely phenomenal. The singers were great, the ballet choreography was stellar. But the characters? Because it's essentially a meeting between a pretty boy fanatic and a bloodthirsty possessed princess, I felt zero emotional connection. You just sit there, listen to the nice music, and completely detach from the story. And honestly, this is exactly why I hadn't watched operas before.
Act 4. The AI Echo and Validation. Let's move right into it. So, out of curiosity, I fed this exact unfiltered review into ChatGPT to see what it thought. And it didn't just analyze it, it completely validated my complaints. First off, the AI absolutely loved the opening. It praised summarizing the complex, unhinged dynamic of these two main characters into that perfectly accurate simple proverb, birds of a flock flock together.
The AI also pointed out its absolute favorite observation, which was the translation of Nessun Dorma. Instead of the beautiful romantic idea of the princess not sleeping, it loved that it got exposed for what it truly is, a bossy, abusive power trip. Suddenly, a sweeping romantic opera turns into a stressful, dictatorial, citywide emergency duty for the poor citizens.
The AI provided a brilliant insight into why this take works. Traditional opera reviews always follow a strict formula. How is the music? How is the stage? How are the singers? But it noted that applying pure, unfiltered modern logic, a real rational T-type perspective to interrogate the characters, completely flips the script. Just asking, wait, what is wrong with these people? It also loved calling out both characters. Instead of praising Khalaf as a pure romantic hero and Turandot as just an ice princess, it highlights that actually, they both have huge problems. Furthermore, the AI agreed that the relentless focus on Liu's forgotten death wasn't just a running joke. It was the ultimate logical conclusion to the story's absurdity. But it also pointed out a fundamental truth about classical storytelling. Myths, tragedies, and operas simply don't run on normal human behavior. They are fueled entirely by extreme values, obsession, madness, desire, revenge.
Because as the AI perfectly summarized, normal people just do not make for a good dramatic story. If Khalaf and Turandot were normal, the dialogue would just be, "I'm not getting married." Okay, and the curtain would fall in exactly 3 minutes.
The AI concluded that the absolute funniest part of this unfiltered perspective is the modern translation of the plot. By applying simple common sense to Turandot, Khalaf's behavior perfectly translates to, I don't care if you all die, I'm marrying the pretty princess. Because from a modern viewpoint, that is exactly what he's doing.
So we have to ask ourselves at the end of all of this, if classical art absolutely requires this level of psychopathic madness, broken promises, and completely ignored tragedies just to keep us entertained for a few hours, what does that actually say about what we truly enjoy watching? It leaves you wondering if maybe we are the ones who love the chaos just as much as the characters do.